Welcome in, Husky fans. We have the non-conference details released just recently. You're on the Hoops Cap.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Yeah. UConn, baby. Home of the champions. Let's go.
Welcome into the program on the Hoops Cap pod here on what will be Friday with my friend T. Baker. We are breaking down the non-conference schedule. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe to all of our podcasts. T's show Built to Ball on Big East women's basketball. My shows on the Hoops Cap that you're listening to, Big East Energy Weekly, and just subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to all of them. Subscribe to Big East Energy Network. It'll fulfill your basketball world, and we're adding more as we go. All right, T, non-conference came out. What do you see? Like, what's the first thing that jumps out on you? And then we'll get into our rundown.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mark. Good to be here today. Was waiting for a while to see this non-conference schedule, so happy that it's here. I was definitely, intrigued, as we've talked about before, about South Carolina not being included. We can get into that a little bit more later, but always exciting to see Notre Dame and Tennessee. I love the rivalry games. Those are historic rivalries. So I'm always wanting to see those two games on the calendar, no matter how those rivalry has shifted over time with coaching changes. It's just always a good time to see Tennessee and UConn and UConn and Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing, and you put this in our pre-show kind of packet, the 10 opponents made the NCAA tournament last year, which is a pretty big number. And obviously you have the rivalry games with Notre Dame, Tennessee, and I think you could throw USC in that mix. They become kind of a rivalry. But the one that I think of all of the ones that I'm interested in, because, and it goes back to just me being old, Ohio State used to be kind of a bigger basketball brand, and it's kind of really leaned into the football world more than anything. But I'm curious about that game in particular. I think that's going to be a really interesting deal for UConn. But yeah, that's like a name brand that we just really haven't played a ton and not in the 2000s and the 10s and all that stuff. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting game. I mean, it's a newly established home and home. So, this year they will be playing. Is that one home or away? I think that one. Sorry, I don't actually know if that's home or away. No, that is at home. That's going to be a home game this year. So it'll be away next year at Ohio State in Columbus. I'm intrigued by this one because Ohio State was the first team in, almost 2 decades to knock UConn out before the Final Four, which happened in 2023 at this point. All the years kind of blur together, but that was the year that Paige was out, that the full court press from the Buckeyes really just kind of shut UConn down. So it's interesting. It's sort of like, maybe a revenge game of sorts. Very different circumstances now, very different environment they'll be in, and completely different teams. So maybe not the same fire, but it's interesting to note that that's the first team that's beaten UConn prior to the Final Four round in NCAA tournament since 2009, 2010 at this point. It's been a wild run. So I'm intrigued by that game, and like you said, a good just college sports brand, and I'll be excited to see kind of how that plays out in the home and home series.
I'm also interested in the and those are all great points. For the sake of, UConn doesn't lose a lot, and when they do, it's always kind of a story. So, but one of the exhibitions, Boston College at Mohegan Sun Hall of Fame, like duel with the men, dual situation where they play and the men play both Boston College. There's no love lost between UConn athletics and Boston College athletics. So to me, even though that's an exhibition game, that's kind of like you circle that one. It's like, I want to beat them by like 1,000 points.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's both BC, right? BC on the men's side too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Interesting rivalry. I mean, my frame of reference is that BC, used to be in the Big East competing against UConn, and then the ACC drama. It sounds like ACC picked the Boston College at that time. So there's some of that like conference realignment fire. Also, Boston College is a team that's improving in the ACC. I'm excited to just see that exhibition game. I wish it was a regular season game. I was kind of surprised to see it as an exhibition, but I like the doubleheader idea, and that'll be a good day to be in Mohegan.
Yeah, no. The reason behind that is, like, I always joke around, like, when people talk about conference realignment, it's like, if UConn was to merge with the ACC or they move anywhere, I was like, as long as Boston College gets left behind, I am totally fine with it, because they essentially blocked UConn, and this isn't just conjecture, and it's not a history lesson, and we won't get into it all, but go look at that if you're a first-time listener and you didn't know that, or you think it's BS. It's not. Boston College, definitely, that was like one of their plays to go to the ACC and leave UConn for dead. It didn't work. The next one is this international showcase. I think it's an interesting one against, obviously, Louisville's a quality team. I played them last year, but it's in Germany. I like it because, listen, we're trying to grow the game of women's basketball. What better way to showcase it than in a world stage?
Yeah, and it's reflecting a trend that's been happening in women's college basketball the past several seasons. The Paris games that have happened to open the season the past couple years, and I think this one, Coach Auriemma has just mentioned, he's always been one who has tried to instill in his program sort of like a value and respect of the troops, of people who are serving. So I think that's really important for him too. It's the Armed Forces Classic, so there's that element too of just kind of being sort of a patriotic, if you will, endeavor on their part. And I think it's going to be a good game. Louisville is a team that's consistently competitive, always kind of working in the transfer portal market. Jeff Walsh is a great coach, so I really like that. I like the opening in Germany. It's kind of just a fun twist and a way to give some just a good experience for the young people on the team. I always say young people like I'm so old, but you know what I mean. When I say young people, I mean up to age 25. So they are student athletes who are also just getting a cool opportunity to travel abroad with their basketball team. And I love that. I love the international tours that these teams go on. I just think it's a fun element. And, a couple years ago, they went to Italy and Croatia, just kind of shows them it's kind of a global game. And I think that's a really cool element of college basketball in recent seasons.
Yeah, and there's obviously a global feel for both of these teams. Louisville has, and I will not try to even close to pronounce her last name, but they have a Turkish player that is playing overseas right now. That UConn has Geno Auriemma. They have Blanca Quinones. They have Gandhi Maluma Mel, who's from the Congo and then Ireland. So it's got a global feel already. So I think that's also part of it. I think the game is becoming, the world and the basketball world is becoming smaller, right? Just from that perspective. Let's get into rivalry world. The big elephant is no South Carolina, and we'll talk about that. But let's talk about who we do play first. When we talk about these rivalry games, I know USC wasn't mentioned as a rivalry yet, but I do think it's a rivalry game for this purpose. Number one, I know Paige is gone, but don't think that they won't start a Juju Watkins versus AZ Fudd narrative, right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Then Kaylee Heckle is just transferred from USC. It's in Los Angeles. It's going to be a big game, December 13th before Christmas. Talk to me about your expectations for that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate because I feel like the Juju Watkins AZ angle is right there. Juju's hurt, so she won't be able to participate in it, but it's just two high profile players, both of them are under NIL deals with Unrivaled now. So really the future of the game, it's like ships in the night with those two, because we won't get that moment, but Juju will be in the house. Like she still defines that program, even though she's not there. And I love the Kaylee Heckle returning home, quote unquote, even though, she's an East Coast kid, but going back to USC, kind of seeing what that plays out like. So I love it. I think USC has just always been a program that I've had a great amount of respect for. When you go back to like the late 80s and you had Cheryl Miller, you had some of the best players in WNBA history competed with USC. So it's got a legacy, 2 national championships, and I want to see them back in that level. And they are at that level. You know, they have really elite coaching and recruiting. Juju's out, but she's not out for good. And I think they're still going to be pretty good this year.
I always forget, especially because of the extent of Juju's injury. You know, I knew she got hurt last year. It slipped my mind that, you know, listen, when was that? Like March, beginning of March, essentially. So she won't even be like ready until the end of the coming season. So yeah. So I, like when a season ends, you start thinking about next year. So like in my brain, I thought of it that way. But have you ever heard, not to go on a tangent, but the USC story, you mentioned Cheryl Miller. Have you ever seen it's a episode of Up in Smoke with Cheryl Miller, and she's or All the Smoke with Steven Jackson and I can't think of his name, the other dude that runs that show, and they were talking about the relationship between Cheryl and Reggie, who's obviously a Hall of Fame basketball player in his own right, and how Cheryl was always one-upping Reggie. It's the bigger sister and phenomenal basketball player. And Reggie Miller comes home one day from playing a game, and Cheryl's there with her dad, and he says, "I scored 35 points today." And he's like, "What'd you get, sis?" And his dad just started kind of like smirking, like, and Cheryl was just like, I had a good game. And he's like, "What? 30?" She's like, "Oh, a little higher." He's like, 40? No, keep going. And he was like, 50? She's like, no, keep going. And he just goes, "I can't win." And she goes, I scored 100 points.
Yeah.
It's the funniest little like back and forth and how she describes it. And I'm doing it no justice. Go check that out, because you're right. USC has this incredible history. Cheryl Miller is one of the best players ever. That's just such a cool clip.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that for me, Cheryl Miller is one of the great sort of like, her story is one of the great tragedies in women's basketball history, because she never got a chance to compete, in a professional league domestically, but she would have really been, she was completely, a force within women's college basketball. She brought new eyes to the game. Her and the McGee twins, Paula and Pam McGee. There was just a legacy there, and it continued with Lisa Leslie, with Tina Thompson, Cynthia Cooper. So it was really a trajectory that Cheryl Miller set that we're still talking about her legacy. We always will. And so I love that she shows up to the games. Hopefully she's at that one. And definitely some rivalry between her and Reggie, who went to UCLA. So there's that LA crosstown rivalry too between them, in addition to the sibling rivalry. But yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm just bummed, like all of college basketball fans, that we're not going to see Juju this year. But, like Paige, you miss a season and you come back stronger. And I have no doubt that Juju is going to continue to etch her name, in the history books of college basketball and beyond.
Absolutely. Well, for us, the elephant in the room is no South Carolina on this list, right? What are your, like, we've already talked a little bit about this. I think we got yelled at by a bunch of South Carolina fans last time we did. So let's do it again. What are your thoughts about no South Carolina? Yeah,
well, I think that it's who knows? I mean, I don't have any sort of grand conspiracy theory. I do think that that Dawn Staley probably wants to prioritize SEC play. She had some, complaints about the way that UCLA was selected above them in the selection show this year. And I think she was like, well, why are we going to make our schedule harder? It's already hard. We go to we play UConn and think that's going to strengthen our schedule, but then you quote the loss against them as putting us down a rank. So whether, you agree with that logic or not, I don't really have a horse in that race, but I think that's an element of it here. In addition to UConn playing 2 additional conference games. So last year it was 18 and now it's going to be 20. And I think when you're in the heat of conference play, it is hard to build in that kind of game. So I don't know, like there could be, we could have fun with it and just kind of pick at like, oh, like there's beef, there's tension, and that's fun. I love those kind of conversations. And that's what gets us the really nice comments in the comment section. But, it could be also just logistics. And if the teams are as good as they are looking on paper, I don't doubt that they'll meet in the NCAA tournament. We'll get to see it eventually.
Do you think Notre Dame or Tennessee can rival at that, that same tension that UConn South Carolina does, at least the last couple of years?
I mean, I don't think that they can rival it because neither of them have been in championship contention. Like, they're both elite teams. Like, Kim Caldwell is one of my favorite young coaches in college basketball at Tennessee. She's doing some great recruiting, bringing in some talent, really rebuilding that brand. Neil Ivey, always one of my favorites. Despite my allegiances in that rivalry, like, I have nothing but respect for Neil Ivey, what she did as a player, an assistant coach, and now just building her own program. I think that Notre Dame is a huge question mark. And one thing that is just kind of crazy to look back at in retrospect is like how they didn't make the Final Four this year. They had Olivia Miles, Hannah Hidalgo. We'd see the way Sonia Citron is performing in the WNBA, like so many pieces, but those pieces didn't fit together in the end, and they sort of were in sort of misalignment. It appeared. So I'm just excited to see, what both of those teams look like this year. No doubt they'll be competitive teams. Like Notre Dame still has a superstar in Hannah Hidalgo, but I don't think it's as competitive as it could have been had Olivia Miles stuck around and had some of those like pieces fallen off after last season for the Irish.
Do you think UConn has emphasized with the 10 opponents making the top 25, like the strength of schedule? Do you think there's an emphasis there?
Well, I think that's the goal. And one thing I'll note is they do play at the Hall of Fame showcase in November at Mohegan Sun. And originally they were going to play Utah first, and it was going to be a tournament style game, and they were going to face the winner of Michigan and Syracuse. Now they're going to be playing Michigan first and Utah second. I thought, and I don't know, I don't have any information on this, but in my head, I was like, maybe UConn made that request so that they could have one more Big Ten opponent on their schedule instead of Syracuse and the ACC, because the Big Ten is probably the strongest conference in the country next to the SEC, and having a win, potentially against Michigan, and then, just having that on the resume in addition to a Big Ten game against USC, I think that and Iowa, I guess who even knows what the conferences are anymore, but the Big Ten we know is good. And the strength of schedule is sometimes based on all those inputs. So having another Big Ten opponent versus an ACC opponent, I think is actually a positive in sort of the statistical evaluation of where they'll end up towards tournament time.
Yeah. I mean, I know Michigan and Iowa are in the Big Ten. Is Utah Big 12 or Big 10? That's
Utah's Big 12. Iowa though is Big 10 as well.
It's Big 10. Yeah.
And they play them.
Well, yeah.
So
earlier in the year,
components.
Yeah, it's really an interesting. It also kind of like, just because you play in those conferences doesn't mean you will end up having good records, and like we saw that on the men's side, like Seton Hall last year was essentially had the profile of a mid-major. So it doesn't always work out that way, but you'd like to think that Iowa, Michigan, etc. will definitely boost your profile. All right. We want to hear from you guys. So when you watch this later, what game are you circling? If it's one game in particular on this non-conference, which one is are you an old head like me and excited about playing Tennessee again? Are you one of these new school folks that's like Louisville is going to be the one? Maybe it's Ohio State. I mentioned that earlier. So I think we both have kind of mentioned that. So I wanted to ask you kind of a curveball question, and it has nothing to do with strength or the conference schedule, the topic of the day. What are your expectations about Diana Taurasi's Prime Series?
Whew. Well, it's funny you ask, because I started it right before this, and I started on the third episode because I have issues, and I'm too just too anxious about it, because I just love Diana Taurasi exists.
Wait, hold on. Pause here. You started a docuseries on the third episode?
Yes, I did.
Would you like to explain why?
Well, because I feel like I know a lot about her her trajectory, the UConn stuff. And I think the end of her career has always been like a question mark. Like, how did she feel about it? And I saw this one post on Instagram that was like, she had feelings about, not playing in that game, the gold medal game at the Olympics. I think she also sort of like reflected on it. It was like, I didn't feel like I deserved this one, which just like sat with me in a weird way. So I wanted to watch starting at the end, and I haven't gotten to that part yet. But yeah, I'm just someone who like gets. I think with my Diana Taurasi obsession, you could say when I was a child, some of it's like residual now, and the facts in my head just have to align. I feel like I know a lot about her, so I'm always like, what am I going to find out that I didn't know? And maybe that's why I'm a journalist, because I'm like obsessive about facts and details. But I'm excited for it. I've never been shy about my bias towards Diana Taurasi. I think, growing up, she was just someone I looked up to as a young person in Connecticut, like a kid in Connecticut. And just seeing the way she entered a league that, wasn't ready for her in a lot of ways, and her swagger, her butchness, frankly, like it wasn't like she could fit the mold of the femme WNBA player they tried to sell back then. And I always just admired that. And I just always admired her attitude. Like she never cared what you thought. And she still doesn't. So I think that's one expectation I have about the series is like DT is going to keep it real. So yeah, I'm crazy and I'm watching it back to front. So just like a little glimpse into my psyche.
Different strokes, right? I think that's very interesting. I think
I don't want it to end. I don't want it to end. So if I start at the end, and that's.
I mean, listen, I rewatch things all the time.
Yeah.
So you can always go back and watch it again. It's not.
Oh, I will. Anywhere. I will be watching it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I just want to know what happened at the end. Retirement.
Yeah.
I'm always so fascinated in the end of an athlete's career because it can be really dark. And I think that's how Diana Taurasi experienced it. Like you saw Sue Bird almost like skip off into the sunset. I think she's like maybe got a healthier balance with like basketball in her life, like maybe more boundaried. Like Diana's just a hooper. And now that she's retired, I'm like, what's up with her? Like, is she okay? How is she living? I'm just very curious about how she as a person is handling not having basketball. So I'm always interested in that, like athletes have two deaths sort of thing, like when they retire and then when they actually die.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there's definitely something to that, but I'm excited to go to definitely check it out. I'll probably start watching it tonight because my wife goes to work early, so I'll put something on for the kids on a small television, and then I'll take the big one. And we'll put on.
Kids. You gotta show the kids. They gotta.
Well, my oldest will have an appreciation for it, but my two-year-old who's yelling at Benson Boone at the top of his lungs is not going to be interested in Diana Taurasi. So,
Mark, are you going to be watching from the start or the end? Do you think?
I'm going to do it in the middle, just to be weird like you. But I'm literally going to fast forward to the middle of the second, whatever episode is the middle, and then go there and then go back.
Okay.
Now, I will watch it from the beginning,
like a normal person,
like a person that's normal functioning. But that's another good question. If you're listening to this, what's something that you watch over? Like I don't care if it's sports related. I watch old series all the time. What's your comfort? What's like that comfort that you watch? If you had to pick one show that you could watch over and over again, that's non-sports related, T, what would it be?
Well, I know what it is because I do watch it. It's Parks and Rec. I just like love that type of sitcom comedy. It's like relaxing and funny. I also like King of Queens, another good one. I love a sitcom, like a mindless sitcom that the nice thing about seeing something that you've seen a million times in these anxious times in our nation is like you get to know exactly what's going to happen. It's predictable.
It's true.
So sometimes we need those anchors in our lives.
I agree with you. I think you do. I think for me it's Seinfeld. It was Friends for a while too, just because it's just, as you said, mindless silliness, and every once in a while you catch like a moment that you maybe forgot or something like that, and it kind of just permeates through your life. But I also think part of it is because there's just so much you can watch now, regardless of how many streaming platforms you have, cable, whatever. There's just so much on demand that kids will never know what it's like to wait all day to listen to a song on the radio because they want to just put it on YouTube. But hey, I digress. Anyway, this is the non-conference schedule with UConn, the UConn women. That's T. Baker. He hosts Built a Ball on Big East Energy Network. I host not only the Hoops Gap, but Big East Energy Weekly. And if you want to do a podcast with us, check out bigenergymediapods.com. T, where can people find your written work?
Yeah, well, I'm writing over at The Next as usual. Yeah, check me out on Built to Ball. Definitely getting into some more details about Big East women's college basketball this year. So it's going to be broader than UConn. It's going to be every one of the 11 teams. So looking forward to chatting with y'all more about that.
There it is. Check that out. Built to Ball, Big East women's basketball. I'm Mark Sonetto. That's T. Baker. This has been the Hoops Cap. We hope to have you back next week.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Yeah. UConn, baby.